Henry Kissinger, on China. Embark on a journey through the depths of Chinese history and its impact on modern China's political and strategic thinking in Henry Kissinger's On China. This book summary unravels the immense influence of China's long history on the nation's psyche, from ancient mythology and enduring cultural beliefs to the rise and transformations of its remarkable leaders. Delve into the teachings of Confucius, explore the intricacies of Chinese foreign policy, and take a peek into China's most remarkable political minds as they maneuver through a global landscape rife with tension. Along this fascinating voyage, learn how ancient Chinese strategies are still relevant today and grasp the significance of harmony, subtlety, and strategic patience.
The continuity of China's history. China's history shapes its thinking today as it continues to see itself as the Middle Kingdom, an eternal existence at the center of the universe. Confucian philosophy, centered on order, harmony and compassionate rule, has underpinned Chinese governance. For much of its history, China has been wealthy, powerful, and self-sufficient, with a vast bureaucracy that prioritizes learning, honesty, and strength of character. China's indifference to foreign conquests led it to dismantle its navy just as the West began to expand internationally, and before the Industrial Revolution, it had the world's highest GDP. This sense of continuity imbues the actions of modern Chinese leaders, who take a long-term view of the world and their role in it. China's diplomatic strategy. China's foreign policy for centuries has followed the idea that any state wanting to initiate diplomatic relations with them had to accept China's language, political institutions, and culture. They relied on protracted diplomatic campaigns based on subtlety, patience, and indirection to give them long-term advantages. Sun Tzu's art of war emphasizes psychological and strategic military victory through the avoidance of direct conflict. This strategy is deployed in China's Civil War and Vietnam's wars. China's distinctive geopolitical style is evident in Wei Qi, a contest of strategic encirclement, which focuses on strategic flexibility, in contrast to the Western game of chess, which emphasizes single-mindedness. China's encounter with Western powers. Western pressure and Chinese reluctance meet in unequal terms, leading to opening their door to foreign interests. In the late 18th century, Western forces were keen on developing diplomatic relations with China, hoping to gain access to the country's potentials for trading. However, China's emperor allowed only Russia to open an embassy in Beijing, thereby limiting the trading opportunities for Western powers. This move caused Britain to feel aggrieved and Germany to send Lord George Macartney to China to bargain for special trading rights. However, he failed as he refused to perform the traditional kowtow ritual, and the Chinese thought of him as disrespectful. As the 19th century approached, the Opium War left a stain on Western Chinese relations and resulted in Great Britain controlling Hong Kong and having 5 port cities opened up to trading. Later, the US and France demanded similar treaties and, as a response, China thought of self-strengthening by developing an armament industry and acquiring scientific innovations and new technologies. It delayed the inevitable foreign interests, but it could not prevent them from taking over China eventually. China's experience with Western powers has demonstrated the significance of strategy and diplomacy. While the West had primarily focused on employing technical advancements to achieve progress, China's shrewd practice and strategy served as a lesson on how to be a wise practitioner of realpolitik. China's turbulent path to modernity. Foreign invasions, civil wars, and political strife marked China's journey to modernity in the early 20th century. In 1900, the Boxer Rebellion was quashed by an international expeditionary force, but this spelled the end of Chinese dynastic rule. Democratic and military factions, along with the Chinese Communist Party, struggled for control throughout the 1920s. The mid-1940s saw a civil war between the nationalists and the communists, with the latter emerging victorious and establishing the People's Republic of China. The country's pathway to modernity was marked by ideological changes and strategic battles based on Wei Qi principles. Mao Zedong, the paradoxical revolutionary. Mao Zedong revolutionized China by destroying traditional Confucian values to build a militaristic workers' society based on constant struggle, elevating and purging leaders to keep revolution and societal transformation going. He launched campaigns inviting public criticism, only to penalize participants, and institutionalized his disequilibrium vision through the Great Leap Forward, creating one of modern history's worst famines. The Cultural Revolution, aimed to eliminate elitist thinking, led to destruction and death. Despite this, he believed in China's exceptionalism and the resilience of its people. Mao's successful, long-term goals, from a position of relative weakness, transformed a near-feudal China into an independent nuclear superpower, capable of standing up to the US and the Soviet Union. He demonstrated a psychological advantage through a first-strike capability, positioning China as a military power and revolution center in Asia, shifting from geopolitical tension to a free agent of the Cold War. Mao's inspirations came from China's ancient texts and legendary leaders, and though a paradoxical revolutionary, he paved the path for China's future emergence as an economic and technological superpower. U.S.-China relations in the 1970s. In 1969, as Russia threatened to launch a preemptive strike against China's nuclear sites, U.S. President Nixon saw an opportunity to establish relations with China. U.S. diplomats pursued initial contact with the Chinese in Warsaw and other locations, while Chinese leaders sent subtle messages of openness to discussions. Diplomatic momentum built when China invited the U.S. table tennis team to visit Beijing in April 1971, which caught the attention of the Western world in what became known as ping-pong diplomacy. In July 1971, a secret U.S. diplomatic delegation, led by Henry Kissinger, arrived in Beijing and negotiated with Premier Zhou Enlai. Their talks culminated in Nixon's historic visit to China in February 1972. Despite continued disagreements over Taiwan, the U.S. and China had taken a significant step towards a new relationship. Nixon's bold move. President Nixon surprised many when he played a significant role in reintroducing China to the global stage. Despite being a staunch anti-communist, Nixon saw an opportunity to balance Cold War forces and keep the world safe. He believed in China's long-term potential and the country's important role in international relations. Nixon's visit to Beijing and the resulting Shanghai Communiqué marked a new phase in global diplomacy and a shift in the balance of power away from the Soviets. Nixon's candid and reliable approach cemented Mao and Zhou's view of him, despite their differing principles. The meetings emphasized mutual commitment not to dominate the Asia-Pacific region. Nixon's efforts showcased his strategic insight and willingness to take bold steps towards achieving long-term goals. The future of U.S.-China relations. China under Deng Xiaoping shifted its focus to economic renewal, leading to immense growth that created a new middle class and lifted millions out of poverty. Though differences remain, the U.S. and China should avoid a Cold War and focus on cooperation to minimize conflicts. With an aging population, China cannot afford an expansionist military policy. The U.S. and China could form a Pacific community to encourage common goals and build a better future together.
Having traversed the rich and complicated labyrinth of Chinese history and politics, we've come to better understand how its ancient notions continue to shape the modern world. From Confucius' emphasis on order and harmony to the strategic encirclement principles found in the game of Wei Qi, China's unique approach to diplomacy and foreign policy shines through. Instilling Chinese leaders with long-term strategic visions, these ancient principles play a crucial role in the nation's interactions with contemporary global superpowers. As we bear witness to the continued co-evolution of U.S.-China relations, future cooperation in a Pacific community offers the possibility of forging a more peaceful and prosperous world. Indeed, understanding China's historical roots brings us one step closer to appreciating its place at the heart of today's complex geopolitical landscape.